Hi, I'm Wes, the Explosion, and last week I did my review and breakdown of Mega Man X Timelines Issue 1, so this week we're taking a look at all the variant covers, of which there are once again 13. Some of them are exclusive to specific retailers, and some of them will cost a pretty penny, so not only would it be hard to track them all down, but it'd be pretty expensive as well. But hey, my video's free, so at least we can look right. That's just as good. Cover A is by Edwin Huang, which has X standing in front of a boss select, buster drawn, with some orangish light streaking away from it in the shape of an X. Wow. X doesn't look terribly happy. His other hand is held in a position that almost makes it look like he's knocking an arrow, and the armor above his chest hangs out over it, rather than snugly fitting against, which is an interesting way to place it. Most of the Mavericks look a little peeved, though Sigma in the middle, with his sharp cheek and jawbones, looks pretty pleased with himself. The bosses kinda match up where they are in-game, not quite because that screen is formatted a bit different with its extra boxes in the corner, though it does match the Maverick Hunter layout if you just rotate each one spot clockwise. That does bring up how each of the cover A's are supposed to represent the contents of the issue, yet while these designs here match the ones on the PSP, inside, Chill Penguin actually takes on his original SNES appearance. I brought this up in my review since it seemed like a sort of discrepancy that had a story behind it and got this comment on my video, which I believe is the YouTube account for this guy, so I'm gonna trust it. Thanks for the info. Does raise some more questions though, like whether this was originally supposed to be a Maverick Hunter story. If so, would they have moved right on to X2 after the first arc, despite those games being set in a different timeline? Or if it was just one of those things that, when a character gets a redesign, that's just considered the new standard, like how we rarely get chubby Pikachu anymore, even when we return to Kanto. And Mr. Moylan, if you happen to see this one too, I swear I'm not nitpicking, I just like to speculate, I hope it didn't come off that way last time. My personal preference is for the original designs, but I still like the remake, so if Udon does want to do something with Maverick Hunter, I hope they get the chance at some point. As for this cover, while there is that little inconsistency, I think only the most hardcore fans will notice, and if they do, there's a neat little bit of trivia attached, which is always fun. I think it was a pretty good pick for the main cover. Cover B is by Hanzo Steinbach, which is significant since he's listed as the artist for the upcoming ongoing X series, so this could be seen as our first taste of what that book will look like. Also got the announcement image with X scowling as he braces his buster arm for a shot in a grid-covered room. It reminds me of the training room in some of the Capcom fighting games, the lines meant to help you gauge distance and knock back on some of your moves, though it could just be here because they don't want to give too much away. Both images look pretty solid. I think I'll be happy looking at 20 or so pages of this a month, but let's get back to the subject at hand. X and Zero. Spoiler alert, Zero's gonna show up a lot in this video, and every time he does, he's gonna have the square shoulder pads that he got after X1, though you can still see his rounded ones underneath here. And he'll also have his sword in a lot of these, which is another X2 addition. And I mean, while the original game probably is the most popular in the series, this is the look most people know him for. It's more iconic, so fair enough. And as you can see, the pair are fighting back to back, which demonstrates not just the trust the two place in each other, but how much their fates are intertwined. No idea what they're fighting, though you can see the arm of a Reploid with two holes in it, a solid looking hunk of metal, and a few other components, as well as some dust, debris, and flames being kicked up from the dirt covered ground, so it seems to be a pretty fierce fight, with the two really wrecking. Even Zero's massive hair is getting blown upwards. I also like how, while they take up about the same amount of space, Zero is behind X here, keeping the focus on our titular character since it is his book. This seems like a pretty straightforward attempt to highlight the comic as an action title, while also getting across the camaraderie the pair has, of which I'd say it more than succeeds at. It's a good image to sell the issue, though... Does it look like Zero's wearing a diaper? Does it always look like Zero's wearing a diaper? We got another one by our main artist, Edwin Huang, cover C, which is an image of X, half his handsome self, half an X-ray, showing off his inner components. This is a pretty familiar concept. It reminds me of the background of Sigma's boss room in X5, the Get Weapon screen from Dr. Wily's Revenge, a few other places that aren't jumping to mind. Heck, even that metal trading card that came as a bonus for ordering one version of last month's issue. Should I have talked about that one with the covers? Oh well, this is X's day. Anyway, not much to say about the right half, it's X. His boot is looking pretty thick, but it normally does. On the other side though, we get his bits and pieces, backed against the green outline with some grid work in yellow, and a light glow from a circuit board behind him. Lots of silvers, grays, and even a more metallic brown, would you say? His head jewel remains the same on both sides, but he has a green lens to match his green iris, and we can see his teeth without the lips. It's really cool seeing all the joints and connections. I could probably speculate on how certain parts move and interact, but you'd be better off listening to an engineer for that. Instead, I'll just focus on a few parts. The indented part on his arm with the different sections kinda reminds me of the gauge on the side of Mega Man's Buster, and the rounded parts in the Buster and leg make me think of a dynamo. I wonder if they really take off spinning when he charges or slides. I also have to wonder how accurate this is, if Capcom gave them any guidance or not. With how tightly X's parts fit inside his helmet, shoulder, and boots though, it does make it seem like his armor is more a part of him, rather than something he can just take on and off. That's a little at odds with how it was portrayed in X-Dive with those sexy swimsuits, though given that this does kinda look similar to the X5 background, which I would trust more, I'm gonna say that this portrayal is at least plausible, though regardless, it does look pretty badass. And of course for cover D, we get another blank one, so you decide what goes on it. You could even do something like this. For cover E by Jeffrey Cruz, I feel like I'm missing something. It's Zero with his saber making a bluish cross slash in the shape of an X, so the symbolism there is pretty obvious. The rest of the crew though is where I get a little confused. To his left, we have Jiro merged with Biometal Model Z, with red eyes to indicate that this was when he was corrupted by Serpent and forced to fight the player character. And behind him, there's Base. To his right is Proto Man, and further back, Axel. Each of these guys have their weapons ready, even if Base's Buster is a little obscured by Jiro's hair. So you could call this a Warriors cover, but beyond that, I'm a little hard pressed to guess the theme. Base is also a Wily Bot, Axel a teammate, and Jiro wields the biometal based on Zero, but other than color scheme, I don't see a connection to Proto Man. Looking at it from a different angle, if you swap Jiro out for Vile, I say this is a group of characters outside of the titular ones who are playable in the traditional platformers. We're just one off for each. I guess you could also theme it by color, red, then black in the back, or say that the ones to the left would be considered more hostile, not that it's Jiro's fault, whereas the ones on the right are largely allies, with Zero's own role as X's best friend and the original Maverick placing him in the middle of the Venn diagram. Or maybe Mr. Cruz just picked out 5 guys that he thought were really cool and slapped them on a cover, which, fair. As you can probably tell by my fumbling, it's not a group that I'd expect together, so it's an interesting ensemble, but if anyone can think of a connection that I'm missing, please let me know. Going forward, we're getting into the store exclusive covers, so these will be harder to come across and probably more expensive, be it shelf price or asking someone to send you a copy through eBay. For the Udon Online store, we got Keenbiscuit, with 4 more female characters, the Graffiti Lightning, and sprites for X10, Sigma, Naked X, Vile, an Extra Life, an unopened PlayStation Health Refill, Heart Tank, Kangaroo Ride Armor Capsule, Siness Ammo Refill, and I forget what the egg-shaped thing at the bottom is. I'm thrilled to see Iris. Not that I wasn't expecting her here, it's just always nice. She has kind of a sheepish expression and is waving with both hands. The last one of these covers gave the impression that this was kind of an on-the-spot picture, so with that in mind, it looks like she's a little shy but still glad to be part of the moment. I also think it's cute how her legs are hooked over the blue and yellow border, making it feel even more informal, though why'd you stick Bava on her head? In the back right corner, we have Cinnamon winking and stretching out a hand, almost like she's reaching to give someone a high five. While I personally would have gone with Nana or Marino, I have gotten the impression that she is the most popular from Command Mission. Over the busty ninja and gamer girl, are you sure X-Dive? Plus, the RPG is something of a cult classic, so not only is her inclusion here a good way to appeal to fans of that, but also gives the cover a pretty good spread of games. That said, I am kind of questioning Rico being here since I'm not sure if she really counts as an X character. But Ginny Jin Jin, it's right there in the name. X-Dive, you might say, to which I'd counter, yeah, but... It's been a while and it is badly translated, but my understanding of X-Dive is that you're not actually in the X universe, but a corrupted save file. It's not 21XX, it's your bugged Steam copy of the Legacy Collection. It's about as canon as Smash Brothers, and putting Rico here feels like the same thing as me saying that my favorite Treasure Island character is Macaulay Culkin because he happened to visit there in the Page Master. Having her show up in what could be considered the primary position, smiling while leaning back and giving a peace sign, feels a little wrong. Especially at the expense of Alia, who's shoved pretty far in the back, reaching her arm towards the middle as if begging to be noticed as Zero points a gun at her head. Love her or hate her, she has been in the most games, X5, X6, X7, and X8, and while I have used the tally of ults in X-Dive, which while not canon is a good tool to gauge popularity, to assert that Iris is the main heroine of the X series, if I'm not being self-serving, I'd say that title actually would belong to Alia, just due to her longevity. If it were up to me, I'd keep Alia for X5, 6, and 7, and sub out Rico for Lair or Palette to rep X8. But hey, I have no idea how this was decided, by Capcom, Udon, artist, or fanbase, and maybe X9 will come out, they'll throw in an in-universe version of Rico, all but my points on their positioning will be moot, and I'll have to say, you win this round, Keenbiscuit. My objections aside, I still think the cover looks gorgeous, and I still wound up pre-ordering it. Maybe it'll be more of a, you win again, Keenbiscuit. We got two for Afshari Comics, the first by Rachta Lin. While it seems a little weird that they're listing the 01 first, it is a pretty dang cool image. Clearly someone just ate shit, you being able to see the light trail from Zero's sword, and a few scraps of whoever bit it flying aside, most notably the generic Reploid forearm in the top right. The pose is interesting since he's in a lowered position, bending down, hand on the ground. It looks like he just dashed into whoever he took out, with such a fierce strike that he needs to take a moment to recover his stance. Lots of air jumps and combos with this guy, so I can't think of too many moves that would put him in this position. Could be the Sent Suizan from X6 since that move does have him leap to the floor and then slash. It also reminds me of the Raikosen from X8, his electric dash attack. This might be all in my head since he does remain upright while using that, but there is some recovery time afterwards, so this could be at least inspired by it, though I could also be forgetting something or this might just be artistic liberty, not inspired by any specific move from the games. A few other little details are how strained his hand looks, it almost seeming like he has veins popping out, like he really put a lot into the strike. And his impassive expression, not quite a scowl, not quite a frown, with the blue trail from his eye to match his movements, gives me the impression that he really didn't care about who he killed or why, he just did it as a matter of course. Man, he's so cool. Not that the other Afshari edition by Ruby Ling is a step down. Despite skipping over it for now, X vs. Vile in his ride armor is one of the most recognizable scenes in the series. We get an overhead for Vile, who's gripping the controls while firing a spray of attacks from his shoulder cannon, with some of his ammo trailing behind him, just past X's shoulder. You can't see the lower half of the mech, but its fists are very prominent, one pulling back as the other swings forward, ridiculously huge, towards X, who grits his teeth as he charges his buster with another set of X-shaped beams coming off of it, preparing to take his shot. Speaking of though, how did he get up there? You can't jump over Vile in his machine, right? It's an unwinnable fight, it's supposed to be unfair. And rather than just empty space, we get sharp bits of rubble flying in different directions, just to drive home how destructive the battle is. One odd detail is just how wide the opening on Vile's helmet is, though it almost makes it look like a maul, meant to swallow up X, so it does kinda make him look more threatening. We also get the little Maverick sticker on Vile's forehead, as opposed to the red V he has in the Maverick Hunter remake. On the whole, I think this is a great adaptation of the intro fight, Standard Armor X so not the rematch, and I kinda wish it were easier to come across this one. Unfortunately, we got another one that I can't get the full image for, the Guy Will exclusive by Federico Sabbatini, so we're doing a zoom in on the checklist again. It's another X-Zero team-up, X crouching down to line up a shot while Zero dashes around him from behind, in what looks like a shot/combo. I like the team dynamic. The two are backlit, with rays of light shining forth below and above them, with a few slices of light blowing ahead like blades of wind. There doesn't seem to be any traditional line work here, just solid colors, from the lighting to the different parts of each character. Or I'm just missing all the dark lines due to how much I needed to blow this one up. But either way, from what I can make out, it's a pretty striking style. We get two for East Coast Comics by Santiago Venegas, with X and Zero in mirrored poses. It almost seems like if you flip the one, you could overlay it with the other, but not quite, at least if my eyes aren't lying to me. Anyway, we got the blue guy charging up a red shot on his right arm, and the red guy charging up a blue shot on his left arm. Despite the Buster focus, Zero's wearing the shoulders we typically associate with his saber, and with X, we finally got him in his first armor. I honestly can't believe this is the only cover to use it, though maybe as we get further into the story, we'll get more. Anyway, while I can't really make out anything on Zero's Buster, X is reflecting Sigma's face, him wearing a wicked smile. Guess we know who his charge shot is for. There's also a lot of light reflecting off of the charge, bathing X in a purplish pink light and Zero in blue. The backgrounds for each seem to match up, having the same line of buildings, just flipped, with the glow of the background matching the other's Buster shot, this time Zero getting purplish pink and X blue. I think the mirroring on these is really cool, and you're obviously meant to display both together, though given the exclusivity, that probably does mean shelling out, if you can find them. We're back at the highway again, with 2 top-shelf comic covers by Jimbo Salgada with Alex Sinclair. Still don't know why with and not and. X stands over a destroyed ride armor, and funnily enough, given the coloration, purple, not blue, I'm gonna say that this is the version Bile uses in Maverick Hunter, not X1. Then again, given the shape of the shoulder armor, maybe it's a mashup. Or maybe I'm just splitting hairs. Either way, the thing is wrecked, wires coming off it, which I'm not sure if they're meant to be connected to it or something that it was crashed into. Both its hands are still in fists, making it seem somehow defiant despite its destroyed state. Meanwhile, X stands atop it, still pointing his Buster at it, a bit of haze rising from the tip since it's just been used. His armor is a bit dinged up, and his closed-eye expression seems a little somber, probably regretting that he was forced to fight again. While the main image is the same, the backgrounds and a few small details are not. Cover B is more brightly lit, probably due to all the glowing signs that I cannot read, outside of the one that says Mega. There's also a few white flakes floating around that could either be snow or cherry blossoms. Given the vertical angle and characters, he's obviously in an Asian commercial area, whereas on the first cover, you get some extra smoke and a red background that darkens as it rises, giving the impression that X is in the middle of some flames of destruction, or maybe even hell. Knowing X, any battle probably feels like it. It's a pretty nice image of X, and it's interesting that, while essentially the same, the 2 backgrounds give off such different vibes, though what's scarier, a fight taking place in the middle of a population center, or somewhere where everything's been destroyed, is open to interpretation. A lot of Zero on these, and we're not even on his book yet. As a huge fan of the guy, I'm not exactly complaining though, other than about what a pain it'd be to come across some of these covers. On that note, I picked up the standard Boss Select cover from my local comic book shop, and have the X-Ray and Lady editions on order from Udon, so I'm still putting part of my income towards not only collecting, but also asking for more. We'll see how long I'm able to keep up. With that, I've said all I need to say, so let me ask you, what do you think about what's on offer? What were your favorites, and did you manage to snag any of these? Thanks as always for watching, and maybe consider subscribing if you're into retro games, especially Mega Man. To save mankind, he must destroy Zero.